Now, to be honest, everyone, if Stan Lee were still alive, I think that he would really be appalled at what Marvel has become, especially under Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and Bob Iger running all things Disney into the ground of all divisions, mind you. Now, we know that the one major release this year, by this July, is going to be Deadpool 3 by writers Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Ryan Reynolds that have been clashing with Disney for the third act of the film. A very big battle for creative differences and everything else happening with DEI and ESG getting spilled into many portions of the third act that Disney is being very aggressive with. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, we've been talking about this on and off for a while now, but there has been a lot of back and forth battles happening between writers Paul, Rhett, and Ryan going up against those like Kevin Feige and Bob Iger. Now, we know that Kevin Feige, and I've said this many times before, he too is part of the problem. We can't just point the finger at Bob Iger and the Disney heads. It's also a Marvel Studios problem. After all, Kevin Feige heavily defends the Marvels. He heavily defends everything that has happened with She-Hulk and the future of what's going on with the MCU. He stands by what's going on with the Echo series and more. It's not looking good for 2025, and it's not also looking good for everything beyond that. Now, what's interesting about all of this has a lot to do with Ryan Reynolds' reaction to all of the drama surrounding actress Tatiana Maslany, also known as She-Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who was supposed to have a massive couple of cameos in Deadpool 3. We also talked about that as well. However, on top of all of this, with the Deadpool 3 drama only getting worse for those high up at Disney, especially Bob Iger, one major development has to do with Ryan Reynolds and She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany. A crucial update to this ongoing drama is actually a significant win for Ryan Reynolds in the fight for Deadpool 3's third act. Now, recently, She-Hulk actress Tatiana was set to make two major cameos in the third act of the film, to make an appearance as She-Hulk both as a lawyer and as a fighter. However, things got complex when Tatiana began to suddenly demand the writers of Deadpool 3 to have an additional scene. As it turns out, both Brie Larson and Tatiana were previously hired to make cameos both as She-Hulk and Captain Marvel in the film's third act by Disney. Now, prior to Brie Larson, of course, getting removed, both Tatiana and Ryan were having creative differences and arguments over the third act of the film, where she didn't like the direction and execution of her cameo on paper. The plan by Reynolds was to have Wolverine come in and steal the limelight to not overdo what was being forced at the time for She-Hulk by Disney and Marvel Studios. After many arguments and successfully getting Tatiana and Brie Larson fired from the film and removed their cameos after shaking hands with Disney on this decision, Ryan also reacted in another way to make sure that the abysmal scenes never see the light of day. It was Ryan's decision that just recently, of course, to negotiate with Disney that absolutely no behind-the-scenes content of the making of the She-Hulk cameo or Captain Marvel's would ever be included on either Blu-ray or digital. This was a direct response after Ryan's many issues with Tatiana behind the scenes. They may have not filmed the scene entirely, but they did film BTS material for both the rehearsals of the scenes and on-set interviews. Tatiana on-set interviews are also getting purged from future disc or digital releases of the film. Ryan is reportedly doing everything that he can to keep the material from ever visually surfacing to the fans. Much of this drama got worse before, however, Ryan took action where Tatiana was demanding double her payout for her role as She-Hulk in the movie, even after agreeing everything with Disney and Marvel Studios. Her cameos altogether were planned to add up to around a total of 10 minutes long in length, which, by the way, guys, that's pretty significant if you ask me. Ryan did in fact have heated arguments with Tatiana behind the scenes for her unrealistic demands, and decided to take things up with the studio heads both at Marvel Studios and Disney. This is where both Bob Iger and Kevin Feige decided to reason with Ryan, Rhett, and Paul to completely erase any material that would actually feature Brie Larson or Tatiana as their roles for She-Hulk and Captain Marvel. Now guys, let me just say one thing here. Now, we know Tatiana Maslany is, and has always been, somewhat of a problem when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have seen what she has said about some of the cast members. Well, you know, what's also pretty surprising is that she's actually not a big supporter of Bob Iger, so this is a prime example of how they all eventually eat each other. They all eat their own at some point in time. And during the strikes, we all saw what Tatiana said about Bob Iger. She really put him on the hot seat. I'm not here defending her in any form, but I think it was brilliant to see someone like her, so unexpected, to call out Bob Iger in such a way. Now, one thing about all of this is that we know that Deadpool 3 has the potential to be a great movie if Ryan, Rhett, and Paul can put an end to all of this nonsense, all of this drama happening with creative differences, all of these back and forth scenarios. At least in this case, in isolation, it is a big win for Ryan Reynolds, the fact that he was able to purge any kind of signs of She-Hulk and or Captain Marvel getting shoehorned into this movie. And the main reason why, by the way, Kevin and Bob wanted She-Hulk to be implanted into the film is that they wanted both Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, and She-Hulk to kind of create this combo of using the tactic of breaking the fourth wall. Alright, also known as communicating with the audience as you're watching the actual movie. Alright, so they wanted to use those two characters with those two similar traits to use them as, you know, a way to kind of reshape the third act in these cameos between Deadpool, Captain Marvel, and She-Hulk as well. So moving onwards, there are still many roadblocks, however, that Ryan is hitting against Disney that goes past the Tatiana drama for this film. For example, the insertion of DEI. Now, one of the scenes that were erased involved both Deadpool and She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall. However, Ryan was absolutely, of course, in disgust and hated the dialogue that was forced in by Kevin Feige for writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. So, look, I feel for the writers as well, not just Ryan Reynolds, the fact that they were put in this position where Kevin Feige was telling them, you know, write the dialogue like this, you know, make the dialogue in this fashion. And you have Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick that are just trying to do their best with this film. Now look, we know that the first two acts, as far as we know, have gone pretty smoothly for the most part. The third act is where things began to crash and burn. And so if things keep up like this and there's no resolution in sight, I've said this before a couple of days ago, that I think that you're going to witness a movie that could very well start off great and then fall off like a disaster. It could end up being a movie just like that kind of ruins the experience in the long run. So let's hope that Ryan is able to kind of take down those roadblocks of Disney trying to and attempting to force DEI into many of the last minute, you know, phases of principal photography and everything related to pickup shots, etc., etc. So overall, I would really love to hear what everyone has to say about this ongoing situation for Deadpool 3. We know it's the only MCU movie releasing this year, which is not a good sign for Marvel Studios, not a good sign for Disney. Already the Echo series is tainted, and the Agatha series doesn't look like it's going to perform any better as well. So anyway guys, you know, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.